All right, this time we're going to resume the meeting of April 3rd, 2017. Councilmember Luna, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Mayor Velasquez.
Here.
City Council Member Friend.
Present.
Vice Mayor Clower.
Here.
City Council Member Luna. City Manager Avera.
Present.
City Attorney Sullivan.
Present.
Chief of Police Westrick.
Here.
And City Clerk Graves here.
Thank you. City Attorney, do you want to report out from closed session?
Yes, a report was given on the status of a potential settlement agreement and resolution to lawsuit with the county. Instruction was given, and I will be communicating that to County Council during the meeting tonight for their meeting tomorrow. On another matter involving a lawsuit against PG&E, in which we've joined with the insurance company to collect unreimbursed damages from a fire at the airport. Status report on that was given. And then lastly, we discussed the vacancy on District 4. And due to the fact that it looks like there may be a large number of applicants, who have indicated a desire to apply, and we only have a 2-hour window, that during the week between the closing of the letter and the CV, that we'll be sending written questions to the applicants to get some information from them to hopefully shorten the question and answer period that we'll have on the next meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Tonight we have 3 proclamations, one for National Donate Life Month, one for National Crime Victims' Rights Week, and one for Walk a Mile in Her Shoes. Are those groups here tonight? Let's start with National Donate Life Month. Come on down. Whereas more than 40 individuals in San Benito County are currently on the National Organ Transplant waiting list, and 22 patients die each day due to the shortage of donated organs. And now, therefore, I, Ignacio Velasquez, Mayor of the City of Hollister, hereby proclaim that in recognition of National Donate Life Month, the month of April 2017 is hereby proclaimed National Donate Life Month in the City of Hollister. And in doing so, we encourage all Californians to check yes when applying for or renewing their driver's license or ID card, or sign up at donornetworkwest.org. Say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor Velasquez, and thank you for all of your attendance here and listening to this. It's very, very important, and it just means so much to me. I received a liver transplant a year and a half ago. I wouldn't have been here to do this presentation had that not happened. At the time, in 2015, there were 45 to 50 people in San Benito County on the waiting list for a transplant. I was the only one that received one that year. In 2016, there are 45 people currently on the waiting list in San Benito County, and there are 4 that have received a transplant in 2016. As you can see, the numbers are not going down nearly enough. So I've kind of taken it, as my Pay It Forward campaign to get out and do as much as I can to educate people about organ and tissue donation and the importance of having people sign up for donors, not only for somebody in my case, but if it had been my child or my husband or somebody that I know and love, I would have hoped that that one person would have said yes the same way that they said yes to me and allowed me to be able to do things like see the 2 new grandchildren I have this year and be able to go and help Donor Network. I've been with them for 7 years now, ever since I got put on the transplant list. And it just really helps me to be able to go out and encourage people and educate them about this cause and how important it is. I'm also the ambassador for the DMV here in Hollister and in Gilroy, and keep them educated so that when you go to sign up and they say, well, what is this Donate Life thing? And so I try to give them that information that they can relay to you and give you a good, honest, open answer to that and help you with a decision that's very important. So I do ask you to talk with your families, sit down and have that conversation, even though we hope it never, ever happens. Have that conversation so your family knows what you want to do and how you would, how you feel about that. And so it's not like we're pressing you. We just really hope that everybody would give that some consideration and help other people that are in your own community waiting for life-saving organ transplants right now. Thank you.
I just want to make a comment too on that August 3rd, 2009. I was a recipient of a transplant, so this is a great organization. These people go all over the United States. Even if you were signed up here, your organs could go anywhere in the United States. And they help about, I believe the number is around 900 people a year. And that's 900 people that probably would not be here today if they hadn't got. I know I wouldn't have been here. So that's a great organization. I think everybody in Hollister should sign up for this. Thank you.
And just a footnote on that, when I received my liver, they were able to take a portion of my liver and give it to an infant baby and save his life too. So it's unbelievable what they can do. And so it means so much for anybody that has questions. Please contact me. Mayor knows how to get a hold of me. I'd be more than happy to sit down with you on a personal level or as a group and give you that information.
I just wanted to add to another recipient in our county is Supervisor Jaime de la Cruz,
Yeah.
and he received an organ too, and he's here today because of that donation. So very, very important. So thank you all. National Crime Victims' Rights Week.
Patricia Salcedo.
Patricia, how you doing? Whereas Americans are victims of more than 20 million crimes annually, and crime can touch the lives of anyone, regardless of age, national origin, race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, immigration, or economic status. And now, therefore, Ignacio Velasquez, Mayor of the City of Hollister, hereby proclaim April 2nd through the 8th, 2017, National Crime Victims' Rights Week, and express appreciation for those victims and crime survivors who have turned personal tragedy into a motivating force, helping improve our response in building a more just community. Thank you for coming out.
Mayor, City Council members, this year's theme, Strength, Resilience, and Justice, reflects a vision for the future in which all victims are strengthened by the response they receive. That organizations such as Victim Witness are resilient to challenges, and communities such as ours, Hollister and San Benito County, are able to seek a collective justice and healing. And with that being said, it's a sincere privilege serving survivors of crime. Staff and I have seen firsthand the courage and strength that it takes to confront crisis and its aftermath as survivors seek justice and peace in their lives. So on behalf of everyone at the District Attorney's Office and Victim Witness in particular, thank you kindly for this acknowledgement. Yeah, thank you.
Our next one is Walk a Mile in Her Shoes. Last year, I didn't get to take my high heels out for a walk, but I'm looking forward to it this year. Hopefully, I can have my fancy shoes back. Are they here? Oh, there they are. They fit me perfectly, and I'm looking forward to wearing it on the 22nd. Whereas,
You wear them other times too.
see how I can lose focus here too. Wow. Whereas Walk a Mile in Her Shoes Day is intended to draw attention to the fact that rape, sexual assault, and intimate partner abuse remain serious issues in our society. And now, therefore, I, Ignacio Velasquez, Mayor of the City of Hollister, hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2017 as Walk a Mile in Her Shoes Day in the City of Hollister. Thank you for doing this.
So we're really excited every year. This is our 5th annual year for Walk a Mile in Her Shoes. It's put on every year by Emmaus House and Community Solutions here in San Benito County. And this is our 5th year. Every year we have about 100 to 150 individuals come out and walk. It's not only it's a walk for males to wear women's shoes. And we walk right downtown, south, all the way down San Benito to south and back. But it's an event not only to raise awareness, but for men to walk in women's shoes to understand and show their allies within the issues around domestic violence and sexual assault. It's not on just survivors to protect themselves, but it's on all of us as a community to show that these issues are important and we care about them, and the individuals that are impacted by these we care about. And this event raises that awareness. It's a great event. It's a family fun event. We have women and kids and men that all walk in shoes, and it's a really fun day. It's April 22nd. It'll be right here on the green grass at 10 o'clock, and it's only about 3-hour event, so you can go back on with the rest of your day and enjoy the great weather. So I hope everybody can come out and really be a part of it. And we really thank Mayor Ignacio Velasquez for coming out. Like as he mentioned, he's walked a couple of years, and other council members that have been part of this event and our board of supervisors. So hopefully you today can also pledge to come out and walk and be part of this great event. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Also, if you can't attend Walk a Mile in the morning, you can come out in the afternoon, and a lot of the local restaurants will be donating 10 to 20% of your dining experience back to Community Solutions in Emmaus House. So get involved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move to the consent agenda.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, can we do the...
Oh, I'm sorry, Employee Service Awards.
No, actually, I was wanting to do the verification of agenda posting.
Didn't I ask that? No?
No.
All right.
This goes with
Verification of
shoes.
agenda. They sidetracked me today.
Yeah. The agenda for the City Council of the City of Hollister meeting of April 3rd, 2017 was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on March 30th, 2017 at 4:35 p.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. We'll move to item 4, Employee Service Awards.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to, I'm actually honored to give Paul De Silva his 15-year pin. Paul is, he's our IT person. I would say that you will not get any arguments from anybody in the city of Hollister that recognizes the efforts that he puts in and the amount of time that he is here at the city. Most people don't realize that Paul's one of those people that actually do work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When he's on vacation, we call him all the time in Texas and tell him he's got to log on and fix our problems. So he really is probably, without offending other department heads and whatnot, he is probably one of our truly most valuable employees that we actually have here at the city of Hollister. And where'd he go? Oh, you don't want to come down?
Thank you, Billy. What do I say? Been here 15 years, right? Oh, yeah. Oh, well, I got to stay up because I got one more to give. I really appreciate, the words, the kind words, and the support I get from all the staff and council and even this guy. I really appreciate, the time and the time I've spent here. So a few more years to go, I think. I'd like to take this time to present another pin to Eric Estrada. You can come up, Eric. Eric is also in the IT department. It's been 5 years. 5 years. It's kind of flew by. We've got so much stuff going on. Eric is a wonderful addition to the team. Also dedicated. I hope to be as dedicated as. I hope to spread some of that stuff on him, and so I don't have to be here that often. But he's coming along. Anyway, he first came on board. I was surprised to see how many people actually knew him. You know, within the city, it's like I'm introducing him around, and it's like, oh yeah, it's Eric. Hey, Eric. So he's born and bred here, so you know, we hope to have you for a long time. He's a relative newlywed. His wife Laura over here is. You know, I still haven't. I don't think you guys even had a honeymoon yet, because I wouldn't let you go anywhere. But I really appreciate the time you spent over here, and many more years.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been great to work here at City Hall, serving, like Paul said, born and raised. So it's good to kind of, I guess, give back to the community in a sense. And 5 years flew by. Feels like one big year, and hope to put many more years in as well.
Thank you.
As one of the departments that causes Paul and Eric the most stress, thank you very much for your work. I want to recognize a 5-year employee, Michael Patty. He couldn't be here tonight. He's actually probably at home. We had a long day today, as you well know. But I wanted to thank him for his 5 years of service, and we'll be back for probably 10 more. We'll see you.
Okay, we're going to move to the consent calendar. There are actually 16 items on the calendar for those that have the agenda with them. Are there any items council would like to pull?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull item number 4, number 8, 11, 14, and 15.
4, 8, 11, I'm sorry?
14 and 15.
14 and 15. Okay. Anyone else?
I'd like to pull item 6 and item 10.
Item 6 and item 10. Are there any items from the public?
Item 10, sir.
Item 10 has been pulled already. Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll go to item A4.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I just want to call attention to the fact that we have many cultures in our community. And I know that I have seen the Portuguese parade for many, many years come through. And as much as the Portuguese parade, and we have the Veterans Parade, we have, you know, the Mexican-American Independence Parade. And I just feel at this time that I just want to encourage the community and the public to come out and support them. The Portuguese parade is beautiful. And not only that, I mean, my daughter-in-law is Portuguese, and I know how much her culture means to her and my granddaughters. And so I just want to personally encourage the community to come out and support this year. Come out and just show support for them. And that's my remarks.
Okay. Are there any speaker cards on that?
No, sir.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item A6.
Is there a specific question, Councilperson Luna, I can help you
That
with?
was a Councilmember Friend.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I pulled it just because I had some questions about that.
Okay.
Because we talked a lot about getting this done, and now it's before us, and we really haven't seen what it's going to cost us and how often it's going to happen. And
So
things like that.
yeah.
And I thought the public might
Okay,
wanna hear
so
that.
the services will be exactly the same as the city's currently doing. So the sweeping will take place as on its normal schedule. There will be no changes that's associated with that. The contract amount is about $155,000 a year. I will be probably coming back to you in the during the budget process. As you know, the main purpose for doing the street sweeping is to keep our storm drains clear of debris and oils and whatnot. So what I will be doing also, though, is coming back to you requesting probably to purchase a new sweeper. Our sweepers are completely basically they're not even made anymore, so we have a very difficult time keeping them on the streets. But we do have special events and other things and other emergencies that arise on a regular basis that our sweeper will be used for. Airport, they'll probably get we'll be doing some sweeping out at the airport as well. So really, the public shouldn't see a change in the services that they receive. But the one good change is that they will be there won't be any down sweepers. So there are many days where our sweepers aren't operating, so we're not out there doing our streets as we should until the sweeper's back on. This company will have the ability to, if a sweeper does break down, they'll bring a sweeper in from another location and finish the route. So we should actually be getting a better service.
Would it be possible, and we discussed this before, was to get a schedule publicized so that the people in the neighborhoods that are scheduled for the next day might have the opportunity to shift their vehicles around?
To move their vehicles around? If I'm not mistaken, Mike, is the route online? I believe Heidi has it. I believe under Mike's department, the route schedule is actually, there is a map that is online. If not, I can make sure that Heidi and Paul get it up there, and you'll have it by the end of the week.
Well, I'd like to see that advertised.
Okay. Yeah.
So that people in the neighborhoods that are complaining about the lack of street sweeping can realize if you park your cars on this day, it's not going to happen.
Right.
So,
yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve A8 or A6.
Is there any speaker cards first? All right. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item A8.
Hi. Good evening. I think it's important, I apologize in advance, to read the proposed amendment to the ordinance. Department summary. The City Council held a public hearing and introduced Ordinance 1137 with proposed amendments to Chapter 16, which is the performance standards, and Section 17.16.100, which is the noise ordinance of the City of Hollister's Municipal Code, at the March 6th and 20th meetings. On March 20th, 2017, staff was directed to schedule a second reading of the ordinance for tonight's meeting. The changes, starting with Section 1 of Chapter 17.16.100, the noise amended. Subsection 17.16.100A and B of the Hollister Municipal Code, entitled Noise, is hereby amended as follows. Subsection 17.16.100A and B are hereby repealed and replaced to read: A. Unless otherwise exempt, commercial construction activities on and contiguous to residential properties shall be limited to the hours of 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday, and shall be prohibited on Sundays and federally recognized holidays. B. Commercial landscaping and grounds maintenance. Routine commercial landscaping and grounds maintenance activities for a duration of 1/2 hour or less with noise-generating equipment such as gas lawnmowers, leaf blowers, chippers, and similar equipment shall be limited within and near residential properties to the hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturdays, and prohibited on Sundays and federally recognized holidays. B, under commercial landscaping and grounds maintenance, commercial landscaping activities with noise-generating equipment used for a duration of 1 hour or more shall be limited within and near residential properties to the hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday, and shall be prohibited on Sundays and federally recognized holidays. The final change is to Section 2 of Chapter 17.16.100, noise. This is added. Subsection 17.16.100 of the Hollister Municipal Code entitled Noise is hereby added as follows. This section shall not apply to works of construction, landscaping, or grounds maintenance by the occupants of a residential property conducting the works of construction, landscaping, or grounds maintenance for personal, non-commercial use. And that concludes the proposed changes.
And I want to thank you for reading this again, just for the public information, because of the call that I received from my district, and they want a clarification, and I make sure that they actually see these meetings so that they can better understand what these ordinances are. So once upon the agreement and passage of this ordinance, will that be on our website?
It will.
It will be?
Yeah.
Okay. And I just want to thank you for reading that again.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any speaker cards?
No.
All right. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. Move forward to item A10.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. How can I answer any questions on anything?
I just had a very simple question.
Yes.
If we have non-compliant gear, you're going to donate it to somebody else?
Yes.
Non-compliant.
Non-compliant, yes.
So it's only non-compliant for a fireman to use, it's okay for a citizen to use?
So it's non-compliant for us to use in the United States. So what they do, what happens is the Bombero program gets this, tries to refurbish it as best they can, and then they sign a letter of release and liability, send it off to Mexico, and then they do their, I would say, fortification to the harnesses and to the bottles, especially the bottles. And then at that time, they issue it out to whatever department needs it the most. There was a time where we used to use them and recycle them into the college system so people who are going through the fire academy can reuse them. Well, we can no longer do that because it created a high risk, and here at the city, we would be liable for any of the use. So it's better, and it's recognized that instead of us taking it to the dump and throwing it in the garbage, it can have a second life by that process.
Okay, that was my concern too, was the liability.
Yes. Yeah.
Non-compliant equipment. So
exactly.
So,
Okay. Councilmember Luna.
yes. So, Chief, when you actually hand this equipment over to Los Bomberos of Northern California, do you also send a letter to our Consulado de Mexico in San Jose, our district, which they are informed that this equipment is being donated at no liability of the city?
Correct. So what happens is, and I didn't have that as part of the attachment, was the Bomberos program will draft that letter, and they'll even get a letter from the ciudad that receives it, the city that receives it, and what they do is, in combination, they present that to the consulate, and they get that archived also. The process has been in place well over 30 years, and they've got the system down well.
Yes, I'm aware of the other cities that have done this, but I'm just wondering if there's a written document that
absolutely.
actually releases liability.
Yes, and I've got that in electric form, just waiting for us to, once it gets approved, waiting for us to get it sent off.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any speaker cards on that item?
Yes, sir. One speaker, Tim Burns.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I too had the same question Councilman Friend raised. I would like to hear City Attorney affirm that what is suggested is actually accurate. I know sometimes liability waivers aren't necessarily that effective. Also wanted to congratulate the city and the fire department for acquiring this equipment, and I was simply curious as to what kind of a cost savings did the city and the fire department receive through the diligent work to get the grant. Thank you.
Yeah, these are been vetted, and it's the agreements, the liability release on a number of cases in the past.
So to answer the citizen's question, Mr. Burns, what happened was about 15 years ago, Chief Geringer applied for a AFG grant, Assistance to Firefighter grant, through the Department of Homeland Security through FEMA, purchased this equipment, and at the time, it could have ran around $20,000 to $30,000. The participation of the city is about 10% of the actual cost, and the federal government will pay the other 90%. So the cost share makes us responsible for the equipment. It's just not given to us because we also have to do a certain level of maintenance and in training to our personnel to make them self-contained breathing apparatus maintenance technicians.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Go move to item A11.
Yes, my question was that I know we just recently approved 3 positions to go permanent.
Correct, for the support services.
Right,
For
support
3
services.
Correct, for 3 different departments.
Okay, so these 2 positions are in the finance department, and are these also part-time?
They're part-time people that have been there or the position has been there for a long period of time. In my department, I have a accounting technician position open, but it doesn't really match the job duties that we're doing. So that's why we came presenting the job description for the accounting assistant, and it matches their job duties that they're doing right now.
So by the adoption of this resolution, would these employees go on a permanent basis?
They won't automatically. We will do interviews for those
recruitment?
jobs.
Open recruitment?
Correct.
Okay.
Because our personnel rules and regulations require that.
And should we not be waiting until the new budget is approved, or do you have the
We wanted to do this now
supplemental?
so that we could prepare the budget correctly and not second guess what positions that we have.
Okay, those were my questions.
All right. Do we have any speaker cards?
No.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Item
Thank you very much.
A14.
Can I answer your questions on A14?
Councilmember Luna, you had a question?
I just wanted an update on the Panoche Valley solar. Actually, and to find out how many firefighters do we have on board current firefighters we have on board for this project.
Okay, so what this contract has is a unique request for service from the fire department, providing 2 firefighters in this assignment for a 40-hour work week. Of course, it has an hour drive down there and an hour drive up, so it's a total of about 10 hours a day. That still leaves us with the amount of money that the Panoche Valley Solar Plant contract provides enough funding to also hire a backup firefighter in the event one of them call in sick or take a vacation day. So we got a total of 3 firefighters on it. They're all step level 2 and 3 at the bottom step, and it provides us that that room, that latitude to hire the 3 for that. The requirement down there is just for the 2, and this right here is an extension for an additional year. The original contract was for about 18 months to include the purchase of a Type 6 fire engine, which is exactly what we're going to be buying this year, the mobile, smaller pickup truck with a pump in the back. And this contract right here has the staffing for the 2 firefighters and the elimination of the purchase of the fire engine. That was removed because they paid it off within the year. They asked for a year because they feel that this portion of the construction will be completed around this time next year. And if they so choose to request another quote for a contract or an extension of the contract, they'll do so. But it's my understanding that they're not certain that they'll be able to do this because of the fish and game constraints that they're dealing with down there. There's about 5 different locations that they're building on for this solar project, and they're only right now capable to build one, from what I understand.
So the original contract, when they came before the city and before the fire department, was that the 18 months?
Yes, ma'am, that was 18 months.
And now has that been shortened up
That has
by
been
a few months?
No, that has been expired, and we're moving on to the next contract. And the agreement with them was we were going to maintain service down there until we found out what we were going to do about a contract here. We weren't going to leave them without service.
So all this time, they have been paying for firefighters?
Yes,
one
ma'am.
or two?
I'm not going to say one or two. They've been paying for the amount that was provided in the contract, which was, I want to say, over $400,000.
Which includes the equipment
Yes, ma'am.
that you already have?
Yes.
Okay. That was my question.
Okay. Councilmember Friend?
I just had a quick question. When you say it's a 40-hour plus or 10-hour day, those guys are off rotation, right? They're just doing
They're
it down
off
there.
rotation. Yes, they are. Yes, sir. So as soon as they get here and secure their gear, put it back in service, they are off until the next morning. And they work Monday through Friday.
Okay, Councilmember Clower?
Excuse me. Is the third firefighter in regular rotation?
He is. He's in regular rotation. He's in assisting and reducing some of the overtime that's accrued by the loss of the two personnel.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any speaker cards? Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Move to item A15.
Popular guy today. Item A15, Safer Grant. How
Yes.
can I help with questions?
I pulled it.
Okay, copy now.
So the question I had is that you have a grant writer, don't you?
Yes, we do. Yes.
Okay.
Shamrock Consulting.
Okay, so I want to know the cost of a grant writer that is actually writing this grant for you.
Okay, so the cost would be 1% of the overall funds provided to us. At the time, I was unable to get the actual, 1% of, where is it at? 2.428 million. Last time that we did this, I don't want to be definitive on the cost right now until the actual totality of it is accrued, because these firefighters get salaries and these firefighters get increases, and with that, that's what provides us the overall bottom line totality of it. So it would probably be just a little bit more than this actual 2.428 that you see here.
So with that cost, if you go ahead and apply and you don't get the grant, do you still pay that certain amount
No,
to
ma'am, we don't
the
pay
grant
him.
writer?
He gets paid for what he gets us, so we wouldn't pay him.
And that would be at the end, not in advance.
Yeah, exactly. That would be at the end. Or, I'm sorry, it would be at the performance review. So the performance reviews are every quarter or every 6 months, and at that time, that's when he'll bill us.
So what are your feelings about this? Because last year you applied and you did not get it.
You know, as a department head for fire, if the federal government is going to provide us funds for anything from training to personnel to equipment, it's my responsibility to go for those funds, especially if it's available for this particular public safety discipline. How do I feel about it? I still feel optimistic about it. I still feel good that we have a good opportunity. From what I understand from the grant writer last year was we were in the high 90s, but we were like 0.25% away from, I don't know, some other city in Missouri or something. And it removed us from the running. However, we met all of the check boxes in the checklist, and that 0.25% was what bumped us off the scale with them. This one, he seems to feel real optimistic about getting it. I'm trying to be realistic about applying for this by only asking for 6 firefighters, which is just 2 engine companies. And the program is a lot different. The program only provides for 75% of the firefighter salaries for the first 2 years, and then 35% in the last year. So it gives
25%.
Well, I'm sorry, that's a typo. That's my fault. They should have caught that.
It should be 35?
It should be 35% at the final year. And what that does, it gives municipalities the opportunity to not have to pay the cost of roll-up costs for initially hiring a person, a firefighter. It gives us the opportunity to keep them for 24 months, and at that final year, to see if it's possible to absorb that firefighter into the general fund budget or not. And they give us that latitude in this particular program to do that.
And last year, the SAFER grant, was that 100%?
Was 100%. Yes.
So they've cut that down.
Yeah, they've cut it down because the program has offered municipalities to use these people for that 24-month period, and a lot of them, like us, weren't able to keep them because it was a big cost at the end of the 24-month cycle. This right here, it in so many words weans you off until you can understand that you're going to have to pay the residual of the 65%, or I'm sorry, the 35%.
Thank you. Those were my questions.
Thank you. Chief, I have concerns on this.
Mm-hmm.
We went through this last time, and what ended up happening through the last cycle is we ended up losing our reserves,
Mm-hmm.
and then being accused of laying off firefighters that had been reserves moved into the full-time position, understanding fully that if we didn't get the grant, they would go back to reserve status.
Yes.
Now, the problem is we've lost our reserves.
Yes.
And until we build that program back up, I can't support this because we're going to end up in the same situation. And I think our focus has to get back to building up the reserve program as we had before. That's going to be the answer for our community that we can afford. What's going to happen here is we're going to hire some people again. We're going to get to that point where, well, first off, we're paying more money this time.
Yes.
But we're going to get to the point where the 2 years are up, the 3 years are up, and we can't afford it. And we're going to go through the same system. At the same time, we're not doing what we need to be doing with the reserve program. So I'd like to see us focus in on that reserve program again, build it back up so you have the manpower you need. It's difficult to come up with these dollars and sustain it. And at the same time, all the other things we need to do in our community. I really, as you know, through our conversations at the fire committee, I need to see something happening with that reserve program before we're moving forward on something else again.
Agreed. We do need
I think
to get
it's very important.
We do need to get the reserve program up and running. We're working on that right now. I got a battalion chief working on the training syllabus because it has changed, and that was the only setback at this time. Once that's up and running, we're still going to be able to pick up firefighters for a program like this, and it gives a reserve contingency and incentive to want to come work for us and stay with us. That's the thing. I mean, we can turn out an academy of 20 reservists, but we'll only keep them for about 6 months, just long enough for them to get their a line on the resume, and then we lose them.
I understand we lose some, but I need to see that program brought back, implemented, and succeeding.
Working on it, Mayor.
We've had a few years now where we have an issue that we have to address, and unfortunately, the additional dollars is not going to solve that issue.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my personal feeling, and I think if this does go forward here, I think it has to be clear that this could be temporary, so we don't go back through the same situation of being accused of laying off firefighters, because that's how we originally intended the first round. And when that happened, that wasn't fair to the council, the city, and the citizens of the city of Hollister and the county of San Benito.
Agreed.
Councilmember Clower?
Chief, I kind of want to get your thoughts and make sure I'm understanding something, because when I read through this, I was kind of excited that we were looking at it again.
Mm-hmm.
But then after some more thought, I kind of came across this nightmare scenario. And I want you to let me know if I'm understanding it correctly, and this could actually happen. So let's say we go for the SAFER grant and we're accepted. Our application goes through. So sweet. Now, next year, right around this time, I think the fire contracts are up with both the county and the city of San Juan Bautista. Those are about 1.4, 1.5 million bucks total. Is that about right?
A little less than about.
Okay, so somewhere around there, over $1 million bucks. Now, if we don't have those contracts, if we want to keep the same staffing, then we got to come up with that money from somewhere. So now, as a council, we got to find $1.3 million or $1.4 million. And then if we get the SAFER grant, then we also have to find another 172 next year, 172 the year after that, and 448 the year after that, on top of that 1.3 that we've just added to our fire budget because we don't have that revenue coming from the contracts.
Correct.
Is that correct, that could actually happen?
That's actually what can happen, especially if we don't have the area of responsibility that we need to deploy assets to. We would have more firefighters in the location. I'll tell you this: overtime would drastically drop, but what would happen is if at any time we decide that there is an overage of staffing in that particular category, we have the opportunity to report back to FEMA and tell them we're not going to meet our performance, and we can rescind on the contract, or not the contract, but rescind on the grant award. And it wouldn't be any penalty to us, because that's happened in different occasions where contracts are provided. And I think it was Modesto or Merced, somewhere in the valley, where they were awarded a grant and decided that they couldn't come through with the program. So that what they did was they gave that grant funding back. And it was for paramedics. And what they needed was firefighter EMTs. So it's not uncommon for something like that to happen.
Okay, so is that a council decision, or is that a department decision?
It would be a department decision depending upon my operational recommendation. Okay, so as it stands right now, we're understaffed. We need to staff up our resources so we can better meet the demands of the city. If we went back down to just the city of Hollister, right now with the staffing that we have, we would be a little better than we were a couple of years ago. However, if two people call in sick, then we would have to call in for overtime. And that's what I'm trying to avoid right now, is managing the overtime and having enough staffing on the streets adequately for multiple calls at the same time.
I don't have a problem with the number of firefighters. I have a problem with that we're going to have to find $1.3 or $1.4 million if those contracts go away. That's where I have a problem. Even without this, there's going to be something there that we have to deal with.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councilmember Friend?
Well, I agree. I have a problem with the $1.3 million. If we found you $1.3 million, wouldn't you be better off hiring half a dozen regular employees rather than go through this grant?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's $600,000 a year for the next 3 years. You could hire 4 firemen for that.
Absolutely, but I think it's my responsibility to take advantage of the funding process that it's there, especially with the huge responsibility that we have in the county. Right now, we're the only ones this city is the only one that is actually putting up a bigger part of that funding source for the personnel. And I have to do everything I can to get some kind of funding support to get these people up and running.
Well, maybe the correct people to be talking to is the county. Let them put up $1.3 million and get 6 extra firefighters.
And I'm
just concerned, like the mayor was saying, in 2 years we're going to be laying people off again. And that's, even though they're temporary and they know that coming on board, the newspaper's selling we're laying off firemen.
I understand.
And I think if for $600,000 a year, we might be able, if we could find that in the budget, and I don't know if we could, you'd be better off with 2 or 3 permanent firefighters.
Absolutely. But like I said, if it's there and the government's giving it to us, it's my responsibility to put in for it.
Well, they're giving us some, but we still have to meet our obligation to it. That's the issue.
There's no free lunch.
Nope.
And, I guess, again, going back to my concerns are, if we can go back and develop the reserve program as we were doing, we can stop a lot of these overtime hours and problems we've had. We can't keep hoping we can buy our way out. It's just the dollars are not there. And we have to be realistic about that. And what I'm sure is going to happen is in 3 years, we're going to have the same conversation we had last year and be accused of laying off firefighters that we need in the community that we can't afford. And that'll be another year where we can't afford to fix any roads or do anything else in our community. We have to have a better plan, implement the plan that we did come up with. I need your help there. I don't think this is the solution. Do we have any speaker cards?
Marty Richmond.
Good evening, Marty Richmond from Hollister. Gee, this subject's never come up before. This is about the 10th time we've done this thing, and I think, frankly, I think we're missing a step here, an important step. We keep trying to analyze this issue from the top down when we should be trying to analyze it from the bottom up. We should be gathering the basic data on how much we need. This is a very complicated issue because you have people on shift, and if they're on a 24-hour shift, you can't expect them to work 24 hours. After all, their safety's at risk. No one expects the firefighters to work 24 hours. So you have a certain amount of hours they work, and during those hours you have to do training, you have to be on standby, you have to get your proper rest, you have to maintain the equipment on standard. You have to repack the equipment if you go out on a call. You have all that work to do. And then when you have an employee, especially one in emergency services, you can't get 100% out of them because it's not possible. As soon as you hire someone, they have a vacation entitlement. They have if they're ill, they may have a sick entitlement, or there's holidays or whatever's involved. So it's a very complicated process. And to build that, someone, and this is a big job, that you've got to find someone who can go down, do the analysis from the bottom up, and say, here's how many actual hours you have available when you have a person. And if you hire another person, you don't get 100% of their hours. I know it sounds like bragging, but I called almost to the dollar, and I'm sure the chief will back me up, how much overtime we were going to use in the fire department. And the way I was able to do that is by understanding that you hire someone, you get 100% of their hours, because they also have vacation coming. They also have training to do. And so all this adds up. We have to do an analysis from the bottom up. If we don't do an analysis from the bottom up, this tension between what I see as the fire department and the city council will remain, because we really don't know how many people we need. We know what the view is from one side. We know what the view is from the other side. That involves what it costs, but we don't have the fundamental data to make the decisions. So I recommend you set out on a big project to determine what that is. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. No other speakers? Okay. Is there a motion? Okay. It's not a motion, so move on to the next item. Thank you very much, Chief. Move on to public input. Members of the public may address the City Council on any matter within the City Council's jurisdiction that is not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Speaker cards are available in the foyer and are to be completed and given to the City Clerk before speaking. State law prohibits the City Council from discussing or taking action on any item which is not on the agenda. Do we have speaker cards?
Marty Richmond.
Did we miss 16?
16?
I'm sorry, Marty.
I thought it was pulled.
No, it passed in the original, yes. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Richmond.
Nobody pulled it, right?
Okay. No, nobody pulled it.
It's my new dance move. Thank you very much. As my public input on public, I'd like to recommend an improvement to the agenda. I don't want to make them any bigger than they have to be. They're big enough already. And when you go into the agenda packet, the packets are huge. But, it would help me as a member of the community and as a regular member of the audience to have a little notation behind these appropriations concerning where the money's coming from. What fund, for instance. So when it says there's an item on the agenda about taking money for the San Justo or Rancho San Justo Fieldhouse, for instance, just as an instance. I'm not talking about whether it's appropriate. When I look at that, it just says, let's, take the money. I have no idea, just reading the agenda, where those funds are coming from. And so if we take $20,000 here and we take $50,000 there, I think it's important that people look at them and realize sometimes those have already been put aside. In other words, there's a project's already been approved, and all you're doing is taking them out of there and using them, or sometimes they're new funding out of the general fund. I just think it'd be easier for the public to understand how the finances work if those notations are there. Again, I really don't want to make it any bigger than it is, but I think that's very useful information, and obviously you would have to talk it over and come up with a system for doing that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
There are no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. We'll move to item D, City Manager's Report.
I have nothing to report at this time.
Thank you very much. We'll move to item F51.
Good evening, council members. This item is a resolution that would authorize the issuance of a request for proposal for the preparation of a parking in lieu fee program for downtown Hollister. The staff report that you have explains that in downtown Hollister there was an assessment district established in 1977 to acquire the land and to construct most of the municipal lots that are in our downtown. The area was roughly 14 acres. It was considered to be the central business district. There were areas beyond that that were part of the central business district. The program was a voluntary program, and only willing property owners were included in the assessment district. In 1995 and again in 2005, the City of Hollister's general plan for the downtown area was enlarged to 53 acres, so our downtown area is much larger. What's happened is also in our most recent general plan update, we changed the designation from downtown commercial to downtown commercial mixed use, and the idea was to allow reuse of some of the upper floors that have been underdeveloped, and to also allow demolition and rebuild of some buildings, infill with residential downtown. We've learned that there's some challenges for the properties that are outside of the assessment district because, say, for instance, if you wanted to rehabilitate the upper floors in some of these buildings that were formerly, there was a hotel or something upstairs, it's impossible for them to meet the off-street parking requirements because the buildings cover the entire block. There's some other situations where there's some existing lots that are vacant, they're small, and if our zoning ordinance provides the ability for the property owner to negotiate what we call a reciprocal parking agreement, that means they can maybe lease the ability to and get an easement and acquire the ability to have off-street parking on someone else's property, but they would still be required to provide at least one accessible parking space on their property. In some other areas of California, the cost of land would warrant and make it economically feasible to maybe build where you have subterranean parking and then the commercial or mixed use on top. But that isn't economically viable here. In 2008, the city and the Downtown Association partnered to develop a downtown strategy plan. Within that plan, there was a chapter on parking. And since then, the city has done a lot of the things, recommendations from that plan for parking. Some of them we've changed the time limits. We've reviewed that. We've been adaptive that way. We've added parking enforcement. One of the things recommended in the plan is that we do angled parking after Highway 25 was transferred from San Benito Street. That was considered in the phase 1 for the downtown restriping, but that was considered not to be feasible. So it was thought that we could add off-street parking places, but just because of the width from curb to curb that we have on our main street, that wasn't a viable option. The city is also paid to restripe the San Benito Street, which is considered to be one of the recommendations they had in that study was to explore sustainable practices. This makes the downtown more inviting, and as is envisioned in the general plan, for walking and riding a bicycle. So maybe somebody would be inclined not to use a car or need the parking space. So what we're requesting is the authorization to issue the RFP with Resolution 2000-1771. We don't know the cost for that study today. We do think it would be reimbursed over time through the in lieu fees certificate program. Is there questions?
Yes. Lots of questions from me.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things going on here. You're talking about commercial, you're talking about mixed use, you're talking about existing, talking about new construction, right? So let me start with commercial. If commercial is existing commercial, they're remodeling and building, I think there's room to work with the property owner for off-street or off-site parking issues. If it's existing residential or proposed, an existing building and proposed residential, I think, again, it's very difficult to redo a building to provide the parking within. If we're talking about new commercial, then the question becomes how big of a lot do they have, and is it possible to put some parking within that building? If we're talking about new residential, new construction, then they absolutely should be putting in parking to that building. And I don't buy they can't afford to do it, because it's being done everywhere right now. Cities all around us, and I'm very familiar with this, and all new buildings have what we call podium or subterranean parking going on within them. It's standard. And I can understand a developer saying they can't afford to do it, but guess what? That's what's being done everywhere right now. And it's what needs to be done on a new structure, especially if you have residential units. Otherwise, you're going to have residents parking all over the town not for an hour or two, but all day or all night. So I think we need to be very careful not to get this confused. Existing buildings, I think we should find a way to work with some of those so at least we get them in use somehow. But I think we should make it clear we should separate existing and new. New buildings, they can do this. And again, it's being done everywhere. For us to say they can't afford it, it's, as the developers say, well, we can't afford to build a park. Well, no, guess what? You're going to build a park. That's part of this deal. And I don't think we should be making allowances so somebody can make a little more money. It's very important. So I think there's ways to do this, but I think we should be clear on what we're talking about here and then go back and understand it.
But I guess some of the lots, they're 6,000 square feet. One of the lots, it's vacant, and
Right, and that's the point. What are we trying to accomplish? Are we talking about a lot that's 6,000 square foot just going to be commercial, right? Well, then we have an issue there, and there's not the likelihood of putting parking within that building. But if that 6,000 square foot lot's going to become a residential building, well, that's a different story, because those residents should be allowed to park within their building. Otherwise, we're going to have other issues going on. And we should always remember that, because once we start pushing residents down the street to park, we're creating problems for ourselves. That make sense? On my side?
I just wanted to point out one thing that I probably should have mentioned before is that the zoning ordinance allows the city council to adopt a resolution for there to be, based on a study like we're recommending, to establish the value of an in lieu parking fee certificate.
Sorry. So let me expand on that. I think when we go into the in lieu, again, are we talking about an existing building? Are we talking about a 6,000 square foot lot where it really is very difficult and it's more of a commercial building? We need to work with that. Or are we talking about a larger piece of land that there's going to be some commercial and some residential? Because at that point, that developer has to face reality and provide parking on site for those units.
I guess some examples, there's one property where a property owner wanted to convert the building to have something more like a nightclub. Well, there's no room on the property for parking, so that they're not proposing to do that. So it could be a deterrent to some adaptive reuse of some buildings. Also, there's other situations where maybe it's a 12,000 square foot lot if they combine two parcels, but the off-street parking, when you provide the handicap accessible space, that takes quite a bit of space, and they still may not be able to meet. They may be able to provide some parking, but not all of it. We want to eliminate that barrier to having our downtown revitalized.
Right, and again, you were talking about an existing building, right? So
yeah. And I don't mean to interrupt, but I think what we can do as part of the program is we can tailor the program to meet the needs of the council at that time. And I think that you're both basically talking the same language. Right. And for new construction residential uses, I think one of the things that part of the program may be is that we come to the council immediately, or we determine by a square footage that it's not appropriate for you not to pay or not to construct your off-site or off-street parking at that location, and maybe an in lieu fee is a route for you. But most of the buildings that we are dealing with, most of the lots obviously downtown are smaller in nature, like the State Theater site. It's very difficult if you're going to do a commercial building there. You're going to mess up most of that property with trying to provide parking. So right. I think there's a combination, and we can meet and figure out what's the best way to do it. But I think the first step is to sort of address what that parking space in lieu fee costs, and I think that's a big part of the overall program.
Well, I guess I don't understand the in lieu of fee. They build the building, they pay an in lieu of fee, and nobody can get around downtown because the parking lot's all full or the street's full.
Right.
I mean, the residentials, the last two successful residentials we have downtown, they have parking underneath them, and it's worked out just great. They sold those houses before they were even finished building them. So
for the residential component, I think that the mayor is correct. I mean, if you can do something like that, then we'd absolutely support that to be on site. I think a lot of the reuse and facilities is probably where most of our trouble comes from.
But I mean, if we built a nightclub,
yeah. So a real life example.
People walking the streets.
Yeah, a real life example I will share, and hopefully she doesn't mind. Was Mrs. Deborah Wood, who owns the building where Drapels was. I can't think of what's in there right now, but there's an old hotel upstairs, and I think they wanted to convert that to about 10 apartment units. Well, their building is built property line to property line. They're outside of the current parking district, so they would be required to put parking in there in order to get their project approved. Well, you can't physically do it without tearing the building down and doing something else. So that's the real life situation that we would be trying to avoid.
Right. Councilmember
I
Clower?
understand that, but that means this in lieu of payment
Well,
just
what-
means
yeah.
we recognize it's not going to be safe. You're going to park on the streets, but we want.
Well, no.
If
So
you pay us something, it's okay.
Yeah. Well, the idea behind the in lieu payment to the city is, let's say the in lieu payment in my example was $10,000, and the city received $100,000 because they needed to have 10 parking spaces. It's our obligation to go out and either purchase or acquire some property that's part of the fault line or something that's not, you can't build on, and make that a parking lot. So it's very similar how the parking garage, for those of you that remember how that actually happened, a big part of that parking garage was our city's share of that parking garage came from essentially, and the lots that are around town came from that program. So that's how that works.
Okay.
That's who built the original lots.
Councilmember Clower?
So part of the problem is ADA with commercial, right? You don't have to have the ADA in residential. So is that correct?
If you're doing a residential development, you have to have ADA. If it's not a single-family home,
So, but you can do that as a garage.
I think if you're doing multifamily housing, you have to provide accessible parking based on the number of units.
I'm thinking about the duet on East Street and 7th. What are they considering the ADA spots there? Is it the carport? Is it the
I think
garage?
those are two duplexes, so I think because they're just duplexes, it didn't trigger.
It doesn't meet the criteria for a multifamily house.
Okay, so what about townhouses that they just built at the old flour mill? Where are those ADA spots?
I think that it starts at about 10 units, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so we're probably going to be fine on most of the projects that we're talking about residential. There's not a whole lot of people who are kicking around 11-unit projects right now.
Not at the moment.
No. So, a couple points. Nobody likes to walk from where they park to where they have to go, but if you have to walk, that's usually a good sign that things are busy. So, if we had a downtown that you couldn't find a parking spot, that'd probably be a good thing, because most of the places that I go where I can't find a parking spot is because everybody wants to be there. So, one of the big pushes has been getting more people downtown. So using up our space or not using our space because of a parking issue that really isn't an issue right now isn't a good reason for me to not move forward with this. If I turned around and I couldn't find a parking spot right now, then maybe there's an issue there. We have to buy parcels to put the parking lots in. That's part of the deal. So you're not really losing any spots. You're just putting them somewhere else. And I'd rather see us buy a bunch of buildings that aren't being used to their fullest extent anyways, because nobody can retrofit them because of the cost of the fault line study, and turn those into parking lots and not have these vacant parcels that are just sitting there because somebody can't develop it because they have to use half of it for a parking spot. We should be trying to use the property downtown to its fullest extent, which is putting as many people in that area and getting as many dollars generated as possible. In Hollister, parking does not generate dollars. Maybe for a couple people who leave their cars in the wrong spot for too long, but other than that, it doesn't do anything.
I guess I generated a lot of dollars for the city of Hollister. But and early on, as you heard me say, what are we really talking about? We're talking about existing buildings. We're talking about residential, commercial, new construction, commercial, residential, because Councilmember Clower is correct in what he's saying. And what I want to make sure we're clear on this, I'm not against and in lieu of for existing structures, because otherwise we're not going to get them occupied. They need help. I'm not so much against working with commercial spaces that are too small to do anything. I'm just saying we have to have a good plan here. We have a large boundary, and we have to understand that if we're not careful here, we don't plan correctly, somebody's going to come up and say, hey, we want to build 100 units, and guess what? We're going to park them on the street, and here's your $5,000 per unit. We don't want that to happen here. What I'm saying is if we're talking about a complex, a larger apartment complex, whatever it is, they need to provide parking on site. And it's done everywhere, even with the commercial on the first floor on the right side. The examples you used earlier, the old flour mill, that's a great example because they did provide parking, didn't they? And even the duplex provided parking. They had their garages. So those work out really well. I just think we need to step back and understand what we're trying to accomplish on existing commercial, existing or potential residential on some of the other units, and then we have a different conversation about new construction for commercial, new construction for residential. So we're a little clearer on it rather than trying to put them all into one group. So I think if we can do some more work on it, we can come back and have a better understanding. Councilmember Clower?
So the question that this study would answer is how much is a parking spot worth? Is that correct?
Correct.
It's not going to address all the other stuff.
But it would be based on some methodology, so we'd have to look at the physical underdeveloped areas that have potential for reuse. There's no municipal parking lots really north of 3rd Street. Well, there's one by Baylor Market, but along San Benito Street, there's no parking lot up there. And then as you move south of 7th Street, there's no municipal parking lot either in those areas. And we would need to, but I think what I'm hearing, though, is there's a desire not to have the residential part of the in lieu fee certificate. Is that correct?
I would say on the new construction, we should make sure that developers providing parking on site. On existing buildings that would like to do something with the upper floors, we can work with them on an in lieu of fee. That's why you're right in the methodology of what are we looking to accomplish with what type of a building. That way this company can go out there and understand that better and come back with the right numbers for us.
So do we have to have a different conversation to be able to get to the parameters of this? Or is it something that can move forward and we can develop the parameters as we go?
My personal opinion is I think that we can build the program as we go, and you can tailor it to fit the needs that the council desires when those things come up. But I think initially we need to be able to have something on the books. Again, Mary mentioned that it is already part of our municipal code that allows it to occur, so that's not really what the decision is. We just don't have the fee in place with a good nexus study that would determine what that actually costs. And that's
so today we don't have the tool available to help people.
Right. Councilmember Luna had a question.
Yeah, Mary, I was looking over it says to establish an in lieu parking program. And it does say to establish street parking requirements. You know, if you look, the 700 block is one of the oldest blocks, I think, in San Benito Street. You know, and I don't know if it was a hotel upstairs or not. It used to be the State Market years ago, and I think people did live upstairs. But, you know, what I've noticed is that if you go through that alley, there's cars parked one behind the other. And I've noticed in other cities, and only because I have gotten lost at times and gone through an alley instead, and they have established alley parking where, you know, there's actually, like in San Jose, you can actually find parking in areas where it's not a parking lot, but it's behind buildings where it's established personal parking. And I don't know if that's something that this program could even look at. I'm just reading, it says street parking. But I'm thinking if we really want to, we can look into we have a lot of alleys, you know. And I don't know if it could be a one-way alley. I think some of them are already a one-way alley where some parking could be established. But anyway, it's something that can be looked at and worked on along the way.
I would add, this is a very important topic, and I think we should take the time to really understand it well. There is existing rules out there, and I would suggest that maybe we do have more of a study session on this and go through it, because we don't want a company coming in and then we're going back and forth on shall we do this or not do that. We have those guidelines so they can help us through it, and we can get a better understanding of what's going on in our own community, but what's happening in other communities, because this is a problem happening everywhere. And the way I see these developments happening is there is on-site parking being built into these complexes. And again, we've had some good examples here recently that they've done that. So I think we can get through this, but we need to make some good decisions here. Matter of fact, I had somebody talk to me today about some of the issues on some of the expanded areas of downtown and what we should be looking at so we can encourage some buildings to be built in that area. So, and it revolved around some of the parking issues.
Yeah.
Bill, would that be something I think we get a really good understanding of it, all of us, and then
Sure.
go from
So
there?
we'll get ready for a study session.
Do we want to put a date now? Is that something we can?
That's we can do during our reports. Why don't we suggest either a retreat and a study session date?
Okay.
Because we have another study session item that we'd like to bring for you, at least a couple. So we'll do.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You guys want to take a 5-minute break, 10-minute break? How's the council feeling?
It's up to you.
We're okay? All right, we'll go to item 52. Come on back, Mike.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Item 52 is a supplemental appropriation of $500,000 to replace the playground at Calaveras School, do necessary ADA improvements to the site, and to replace the roof on the gazebo. Currently, Calaveras School is under a joint use agreement that began in January of 1991 and expires in January of 2021. As you are aware, we've been tasked with trying to negotiate a new master agreement for all the schools rather than have 4 different agreements for the 6 different schools. During our negotiation process, the school district has let us know that they will not even begin to consider a new agreement until the playground is addressed at Calaveras School and another item that's later on in the agenda is addressed. So the intention of bringing this before you tonight is we have received their draft contract for the master agreement. We have made changes, and before we send it back to them, we would like to put findings at the beginning on whether or not you're going to support these 2 items. So that's why this item is being brought to you tonight.
Okay. Questions from council? Councilmember Friend, were you going to?
No.
You're not going to go there.
I was in the meeting, so I'm not going to throw my weight on that one.
$500,000 is quite a bit of dollars to improve a park. Obviously, it needs help, and we all agree that we need to put some more dollars towards this park and a few of the others. I'm questioning the amount, and I'm questioning the school district's forceful position to make sure we do something before they'll even talk to us. That seems kind of odd to me, so I'm not in the loop on that conversation, and I'm kind of concerned that they're saying, if you don't do something first, we're not even going to talk to you about that. That doesn't seem as a very good partnership there. So maybe you could fill me in on that a bit more, and give me a better idea of the cost of $500,000 to re-roof that area there. I can't see that being more than $30,000, $50,000. Yeah. Really? Okay, that's
just for the roof on the gazebo.
That's an expensive roof. I think that's
well. The roof we are putting on there won't wind up in the same condition as the roof that's on there. I'll tell you, the roof that's on there is a beautiful roof. It was Spanish tile. It's all copper flashing, all copper gutters. It was a 100-year roof when it was built. The problem is the vandals have thrown chunks of concrete up there and broken all the Spanish tiles. So the roof that we're going to replace it with is metal sheet roofing that looks just like Spanish tile. In fact, we just are in the finishing touches of doing the restroom building, where that situation will not repeat itself. So that is a $50,000 job just for the gazebo. The playground is $250,000.
A quarter.
Hopefully we can participate in a grant situation again and get part of that covered, but unfortunately that grant isn't being offered right now, so we can't participate. That comes up in October. In addition to that, there is a considerable amount of concrete that is going to have to be removed. and that is going to add tons of money to the cost of demolition of the site, and we got to replace it, and concrete is expensive, especially laying it. You throw that in with the safety tiles, which is about another $50,000 for the playground, because we're going to do tiles like we did on Park Hill, so it's totally ADA accessible instead of the ground rubber, which people are having some concerns about. And you get to $500,000 real quick.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I like what we used up there. It's very nice, and I agree the ground rubber's got to go. We don't want that any longer. But the playground we put up there was $100,000, I believe.
It was a $250,000 playground that we got a grant for $125,000 of it.
Right.
The good news is, because of all the improvements we're doing, that allows these funds to come out of the Park Development Fund and not the general fund. Thank you. You're welcome.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I meant to put that in earlier.
Yeah, but we still need dollars to do some more improvements. I'm just
understand
like a more thorough understanding of.
And then, as far as your earlier question, I can't speak for the school district. I don't even begin to, so I'm sorry.
Councilmember Friend.
Well, just a little insight, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. There was a couple items that came up in our discussion during that committee meeting that were already contractually part of the agreement, i.e. the city is responsible for this part. So that's why the school district is saying, you got to take care of your parts that you've already made a contract with us to do it, and we haven't done it. So we've allowed the park to get into disarray it's in now, and it's time to bring it up. It would be no different if there was no school sitting next to it. The reason it's sitting, it happens to be sitting on the same parcel that the school's on. It's not just the school district's issue, it's the city's issue. And the next thing that's up on the agenda is also something that we made a contract with the school when the school was built, that we would build a field house. And in the 20 years the school's been there, the city has not built a field house. So what the school district is actually asking the city to do is to step up and do what we contractually said we'd do before we work on any of the other issues.
And I could agree with that, except that
now the price is a different thing.
I could agree with that, except the same could be said in the opposite of McCarthy Park, where the school district was supposed to maintain McCarthy Park.
Well, we haven't.
They
that's
didn't.
Not even.
That's school district.
That was another school district. Okay.
That's not even part of this. But yeah, you're right. It's the same situation. But
I think there's more conversations that need to be had on this.
I agree. The price is extremely high.
I guess I'd like to see more detailed breakdown. If we're saying $500,000, I really need to see some numbers behind that. I know that's a higher estimate to make sure you get the project done.
Yeah, and I believe that, I mean, and again, the council obviously has the, whatever is the council's desire on how we move forward. I think what Mike's purpose and the committee's effort was for tonight is to just acknowledge what our obligations are going to be to the school district. We can't obviously let a contract or buy or anything based on this approval this evening. I think it was for us is to get back at the table with the school district and let them know that our council made this commitment. This council made this commitment to that park, and we will begin working on getting those real cost estimates to you.
And that's all I'm looking for. Some. I know when we looked at playground equipment, there was really good equipment out there for $60,000, $50,000. Then there was the other level of $100,000. But I just need to see some numbers. I can't just say $500,000 is all right, because we do have more parks we need fixed, and I just need to see some kind of numbers behind them.
And I agree with what Billy is. He put it better than I did. Is that's what the school district is looking for us to meet our commitments. We can argue over the cost, but we're going to do the work.
Right. I agree with that part.
I think that, and if you look at the letter that's in the package, that's pretty much what the school district has asked us to do. And I thought it was kind of a sticking point at the negotiations that why are we even negotiating all these other contracts and combining them? We haven't met the obligations we signed for the first one. So clean those up. We'll talk more. I didn't agree with that, but that was the school district's
opinion. So.
Right. Councilmember Luna?
Mike, you mentioned a grant, and you said it was not going to be available until October?
Mm-hmm. The school district it's their property, so it's their choice what playground goes in and what manufacturer. The manufacturer that the school district prefers and has chosen offers a grant every October that will fund half the amount of the playground.
Half of the amount? Now,
as long as we match
with the
it.
building that is going on in the area, is there any other way that the city can come into some funds for that area, for that park?
Those developments are paying into that park development fund, so that would be the funds.
That's where the money will be coming
Yes, ma'am.
from, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So I'm just wondering if there was any other grants available that we could tap into besides the one in October.
I'm looking, the only grant I've found other than that, and it opens here shortly, is a grant for shade cloth over the top of playgrounds by the Dermatologist Association to help fight skin cancer.
Okay, because I know you've been successful in other grants.
Yes, ma'am.
When it comes down to this, and it's very important. Recreation and parks are extremely important, and I'm just hoping that there's a possibility that we can work this out. Thank you.
I would like to see the council move forward on these two projects. I would agree that I'd like to see a more detailed cost analysis done on it, but that's an awful lot of money.
Thank you. Just to expand on Councilmember Luna's question, a month ago, 2 months ago, we were told that we are applying for $1.5 million in grants for parks. Is that, are we talking about?
Brian's department is handling that, and yes, they did.
So we're in that process?
For a park.
I'm sorry?
That was for one park.
It's only for one park?
That is correct.
Okay. And for clarity, the new home impact fees, as I understood before, cannot be used for repairs, only for new additions to the park.
That is correct. And by the level of playground that we're speccing and all the ADA improvements that are going to need to go in,
would qualify.
It's an additional, it's an addition to, it's not a replacement or a repair of.
Okay. I still have my concerns about the dollar amount. If I could see it at $250,000, I'm with you on this.
This is about what Park Hill cost.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned of the number. Councilmember Clymer?
Mike, what was the number during the CIP that didn't get passed?
I believe I was asking for 250 or 300, I think.
Okay.
And that was with the grant.
So, just because I've been working on this for a bit, the school districts, they're pretty darn firm about us moving forward with this park. And we probably should have moved forward fixing this about a year and a half ago. I mean, the past council had a good jump start on Valley View and Las Brisas, and then maybe it was my fault, but as soon as we came on, we stopped spending money on the parks, and we've talked about it, but we never actually did. $500,000 is a lot of money for just about anything. I'm hoping it will cost a lot less than that. But at the same time, this park is kind of like the main place that you can go in that whole area. I think people from all over town go there. Councilmember Luna knows better than I do that there's a couple other parks, but nothing anywhere near the facility that this is and what it should be. Depending on how things go, there's going to be a lot of new residents in that area. Just down the street to the west, there's 2 little subdivisions going in that are going to have people probably living there within the next 14, 15 months. So I wish we would have did this already. I wish the school district didn't say either do this or we're not going to talk to you, but that's just part of the deal at this point. So this is something that we should have done. I think we move forward with it.
Okay. Do we have any speaker cards?
No, sir.
Is there a motion?
Well, obviously, I'll make the motion that we approve this.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
No. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Friend, I didn't hear your motion.
The motion was to approve Resolution 2017-76.
Thank you. Was that 4-3-1? Thank you.
We'll move on to item 53.
So this item is a supplemental appropriation for $12,000 to fund 101-7000 for the public fireworks show coming up in July. In the past, the way this works is the fireworks booths pay a fee that has gone to a committee that had a separate bank account from the city, and they hired the fireworks show each year. The committee is down to one member, and that's retired Clerk Johnson, and she is done. Did I put that gentle enough? So she has asked that we go ahead and take it on as a city function. So in discussions with the finance director, because this is kind of complicated, we need to appropriate $12,000 for this year's show. That will be made up with by $9,000 in permit booth fees from the fireworks booth. And we're adding $3,000 to do a little better show. Now that we're out at the airport, we can go a little higher and make it a little better. So that would be a supplemental appropriation of really $3,000 from the general fund for Marty, and $9,000 of it would be passed through on fees collected on the fireworks booths. But ultimately, you're appropriating the total of $12,000 so that it's in the budget so that I can hire the people to do the work.
Any questions from council?
Just a comment. The show that you had out at the airport last year was crap.
We're trying to make it a
Compared to
little
what
better.
went on at the school every year, it was garbage. So if we're going to hire the same contractor, I'm against this all the way. I don't know why we moved it out to the airport. Nobody could get close to it. It was people parking sideways on San Benito Street. Why we didn't have an accident out there, I don't know. And it was nothing. I mean, the Warriors have better fireworks inside the auditorium. So I just think this, we've got to do something about either if you want to improve the show, that's fine, but we'll see. That it's not a very good show. If last year was an example.
Councilmember Luna.
Mike, how many vendors do we have every year in the city that have booths?
That's handled through the city clerk's office. I think it's 9, isn't it? Aren't we down to 9?
No, it was 12 for a number of years.
12.
One dropped out last year, so that can't be replaced this year, so it's 11 now.
We're down to 11.
And so how much do they pay as a fee?
They pay $700 towards the community fireworks show.
Okay. So from those fees, you're going to be able to pick up the rest of the funding?
Well, that would pay for what you saw last year. And then we're asking to add another $3,000 from the general fund to it to make it a better show. Actually, maybe $4,000.
Is it 3 or 4?
It's $3,600 exactly.
Okay. And are you going with the same person that Ray just mentioned?
The same contractor was intended to go back, but we had discussions on how to improve the show.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Do we have any speaker cards?
No, sir. Oh, I'm sorry. Marty Richmond, no, I put it towards your other one. My apologies.
Good evening again. My wife and I, we never missed the fireworks show. For years, I lived in Salinas. We used to go to Monterey, and you can say they spent a lot of money, but it was impossible to get in there with your car. Just traffic backed up forever. and they would always have it over the water, and half the time the fog would be in, you couldn't see a thing. And then you were stuck there 4 hours trying to get out, okay? This actually is more enjoyable. I understand why they had to move it, and I support moving it. We had a drought, and I don't disagree that the show needs improvement, but the placement of the show was critical because we had this terrible drought, and you have all that dry stuff back there, and there's a lot of homes going in back there. It's just not reasonable to keep doing it in the same spot. As far as access goes, I don't know what happened on San Benito Street, but we went early enough to get in toward the airport. We didn't really have much problems with access. Of course, getting out is always going to be a problem because, like leaving a ballpark. I mean, people come in at different times, but everybody tries to get out at exactly the same time. So I'm pretty happy with the airport as far as the location goes because I feel it's a safe location. I do agree the show needs some perking up, so I'm supporting, this bill for $3,600. But as long as we're on the, here's how we make the money back is we can start handing out tickets to those people who are using fireworks in the expensive tickets to those people in town who are using illegal fireworks that one of these days are going to burn a couple of houses to the ground for sure, because we already had a couple of fires, and I'm sure that the fire chief will tell you that. And Jason Pierre-Paul is a linebacker for the New York Giants. He's a tough guy. He's not as tough as that M80 firecracker that went off in his hand and took half his hand off. And I was in this business for many years, and I've seen people injured with explosives. So I'm glad Jerry did tell me before this meeting that we have the Safe and Sane booths handing out pieces of paper, helping people make the right decision. But until I encourage you to enforce strongly the laws against using illegal fireworks, because one of these days we are going to have, it's just inevitable, we're going to have a serious problem. And I don't want to be involved in the legal issues or have the city involved. So that's how you make some of your money back. Just find the people who don't follow the rules. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers?
No.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll move that we approve 2017-77.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Move forward to
One
item.
time, Mike. Just one time.
Forward to item 54.
Item 54 is another supplemental appropriation from the Airport Enterprise Fund to the Airport Operating Fund in order to assist the Hollister Airmen's Association and the Experimental Aircraft Association in putting on a fly-in at the airport on a date to be determined in October. This $10,000 would be used to rent the necessary toilet facilities that we would need for the event. It would pay for the additional insurance required for the event. It would pay for the necessary county permits to hold the event, and it also would cover staff time to set up and take down for the event.
Okay. Is there any questions? Council? No questions? Councilmember Clower?
How many people would we expect to come in?
Oh, I learned at the air show you can't
well
make that prediction. I would expect hundreds.
100 people flying in or going out there to check out the planes?
Going out there to check. I'm talking about coming through the gates to walk around and need to go to the bathroom. That's what I'm worried about.
Okay. And we're going to work on getting vendors out there to serve those people, or is that something we're not going to do? Or
Hollister Airmen's Association and the Experimental Aircraft Association are putting on the event. I'm just going to make sure the facility is ready for the event and ensure that things go smoothly at the event. So I wouldn't be handling any of that.
Okay. So would we be looking at this $10,000 as as a marketing spend? Is it an investment? Do we think we're going to get a return on new business? I'm trying to figure out.
Well, I would consider it as marketing and goodwill. The airport creates noise in the community. The airport needs to be a good neighbor to the community. And anytime little kids are out there looking at airplanes, that just fosters interest in aviation and everything else. The air show did provide a return of investment to the FBO out at the airport. He has testified at airport commission meetings that people wanting to get their pilot certificates have business has increased after the air shows. Gas sales has increased after the air shows, and even his maintenance business increases after the air shows.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Luna?
So everything will be coming out of the airport fund?
That's correct.
And $7,300 are professional services. Are those the services of the people that are flying in?
That's for the porta potties, the permits, the insurance. That's where we would pay that out of, is that item.
Okay. And operating supplies, what would that pay for?
That's more staff, the rope to rope things off, stuff, the consumables that need to be purchased.
So it would not go beyond $10,000?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Councilmember Friend?
So a fly-in, you just have a bunch of people fly in and then just let people, it's a static display, that's it.
That's correct. And I'll be honest with you, this
No
one scares me
aerobatics.
a lot more than an air show.
No aerobatics, nothing like that.
That's correct.
Can I ask why it scares you more than an air show?
Because you have airplanes coming and going throughout the event, and at an air show, there's a start time for the event and an end time for the event, and we control the propeller's motion during the event. There is none where the crowd is. And in this case, you got people walking around in where the airplanes are parking while people are taxiing in, and it's going to be a significant higher safety bar that we're going to need to meet to make me feel comfortable holding this type of event rather than an air show.
Well, I'm going to go back to the question Councilmember Clower asked. What's the end goal here? Because just to have a fly-in, that's great. But what are we trying to accomplish? I mean, we keep talking about making this airport one of the centers of our business activity within our community. What are we going to do at this event to recruit people or do what we need to do to encourage them to park their private jets or whatever it is we're trying to accomplish?
I don't think this event will do that. I think this event is more to keep goodwill with the community so they're not attacking your airport as you have people wanting to bring their private jets in there. Once again, we got to be a good neighbor to the community. We create noise. It's a lot of land out there. It's a mysterious place because there's fences put up, there's security levels, and normally you can't go walk around out there. And this is an opportunity for the public to come in, see what's going on, learn about the airport in their community.
I guess what I'm saying is if we're doing this, we should take advantage of this and at least do some type of promotion to let people know what's going on at the airport, whether it's...
We will absolutely have a booth out there with the airplane and have our materials out there that educate people about the airport.
I want an effort to really try to recruit or do something. I can't just say, here, let's just spend $10,000 to make some people feel happy. This is how we ended up not having the air show. Asking for is how do we do something to encourage people to tell others about our airport and bring their business here. If you can think about something and come up with something, that'd be very helpful.
Okay.
Do we have any speaker cards? Is there a motion?
I'll move to accept resolution number 2017-78.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Okay. Lack of a second, the item does not move forward. Thank you very much.
Okay. One more.
Almost. 55.
Good evening. This is yet another supplemental appropriation. This isn't a supplemental appropriation yet. So this is a theory. So one of the items that the school district has a concern about is the fact that in the original 1988 agreement with the Hollister School District for the use of Rancho San Justo School, we agreed to develop a field house which had a snack bar, restrooms, storage. I'm forgetting something, but that's it. Oh, okay, I got all three. That never happened. I've searched our historical records trying to figure out why that never happened. I cannot produce a document that says why it never happened. So as far as I know, the agreement's valid and we're on the hook to do it still. So you have disposed of some property right there at that site for approximately $400,000 is the price that you sold it for. And what staff's idea is that you take that money from the disposal, which I believe is like $380,000 or $390,000. You supplement that with $10,000 or $20,000 from the general fund, and you transfer $400,000 to the school district for the purpose of building the field house. We can't complete that project efficiently because the school district's used to dealing with the Office of State Architect and meeting school levels of construction. That is not something that we do on a daily basis. As a result, it would be a lot more expensive for us to complete that project than it would be for the school district. So what this item does is says that you agree with the plan, and it allows us to move forward with our negotiations, because I can put that in as a finding that in a date future, once the land transfer is complete and the money's been paid, that we're going to transfer $400,000 to the Hollister School District for the purpose of building the field house.
And just as another note, only because it was part of my previous life, the redevelopment project area or their implementation plans of 1994 and 98 also, or 94 and 99, also identified it as the Rancho San Justo Sports Complex, and it was actually always intended to be paid for by the redevelopment agency. Why it actually never occurred, I can't really explain, but obviously now it's one of those things that went. Now we don't have the redevelopment agency anymore. So,
is there any questions, Councilmember Luna?
I hate to say this, but I do remember something about, actually the Hollister School District at the time coming before the City Council, and I remember a report. But what size field house are they talking about? I mean, is it a snack bar or?
It would be a snack bar, restrooms, and storage area out there.
To get rid of the porta potties, Coke machine, and pod. That's out there now.
That's out there now.
Yeah.
So is that away from the?
It will be
away from the facility itself.
Yeah, no. If you know the south softball field and the track, it'll be against or in that between those two facilities in that area there. I assume.
Yeah, we're just giving money to the school district. It's up to them where they put it on the site.
Okay, because I know that field is used often,
all the time.
There's
daily
weekends. I mean, I don't know if they play soccer at night, but it's always used.
Being used right now for softball at night.
So, okay.
Councilmember Clark.
I'd like to condition this upon the closing of the sale of McCrae Street.
Okay.
I think that's pretty important, because otherwise, that makes it a lot more palatable, because we can say we did this for this instead of saying we didn't do 100 things and we did this instead. It probably should have been done 30 years ago. But at the same time, if we don't condition upon that, and when that happens, then we've got to find that money in the budget right now or next month. So that's something that I'd like to see.
My question would be, I'm curious on how did we come up with the $400,000 number? Is that something the school requested, or is that something we came up with?
We rounded up from the disposal price of the McRae Street project.
And the reason I'm asking, I could see us transferring $400,000, the school spending that without blinking an eye. But at the same time, I know there's pods pre-built that meet the DSA standards, which we know we're close to the cost of this. So I'm curious, have we done some research on that?
That's what the school district's looking at using. But once again, it's
well, the reason I'm asking
much
that,
more efficient for the school district.
I agree. But if it turns out it's only $200,000 for the pod, because I know we get the bathroom portion of this for $100 and a quarter, and the additional probably for another $100. If the school only spends $225,000, are they going to give us back the additional dollars? That would be my concern. Is are we just writing a blank check for $400? They spend $200.
So what we could do is this: if the motion could include Carson's Councilman Clower's note about the actual close of escrow on the McRae Street property, and if also in the motion we can have it that we develop a project description that clearly outlines the facility itself and any of the site work that's going to go along with it, because I know that they're wanting to put some picnic tables. I think they're trying to make it nice. So if we develop what that project description is, I don't think that the school district would have a problem, providing us with the information on the construction costs and how that relates, and if there is anything left over, that it gets refunded to us. I don't think they have a problem with that.
Right. I just want to make sure we're looking at these pre-built pods that are, again,
Yeah,
they're DSA approved already. It's just a matter of shipping it from one of these companies.
You also are going to have considerable ADA site improvements to the area and other expenses. So.
Yeah, so we can develop a project.
Okay, if you can get the project list. And
I have another question, Mike.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it possible that as the work is developed and done, that they would invoice the city instead for what has been done, instead of just like the Hollister School District used to invoice the city before for park maintenance, and the city would, or we would invoice them so that they could pay us.
That's
is it possible for
That's
that?
something we can discuss with them, yes.
Again, for our purposes, I think they want to just make sure that this council is going to follow through.
Yeah, and I agree with the mayor, because, you don't want to give them a $400,000 check, and really they're going to spend maybe $250,000. And then what do? Fight back for the reimbursement? I think maybe if we could be paying by invoices, they're doing the work, then we're making sure that they're not going to go over the $400,000, and if it's less, then better for us.
So I think, Bill, as you pointed out, if you could structure this and make sure we're first looking at some of these options, it's going to save us some money.
Being that was RDA funds, I think the school district should go to Jerry Brown and try and get some of that back.
Jerry Brown's already taken a lot of that money.
Okay. Do we have any speaker cards? No speaker cards. Is there a motion?
So how do we,
as with the
we word it?
With the
recommendations from Councilmember Clower. And
I think the recommendation is that no money shall be transferred prior to closing, which should be pretty easy based on the second part of the motion, which is going to either negotiate with the school district on doing an invoice or developing a project description that clearly identifies what the project consists of, and any leftover funds are returned to the city of Hollister upon project completion. Something like that.
Okay. There's a motion.
Motion to approve resolution 2017-79.
And a second.
The motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
All right. We're almost there, folks. Item G61, reports from city council members regarding their committees. Councilmember Luna.
I attended the Gang Prevention Committee meeting the other night, and I personally want to thank Councilmember Friend for running the meeting. smooth and right to the on time. So thank you for that.
Okay, Councilmember Friend.
Well, I also attended the gang prevention policy meeting. A couple interesting items. It's the first time since February of 2016 that we had a quorum. So that was notable that we had 4 new members, and they came without knowing that we hadn't had a quorum. So we had election of officers, and we went through the gang prevention policy committee's vision and missions for the benefit of the new people. And we came up with a couple ideas on how to move on forward with the above the influence policy, where, if you remember last year, we had a big meeting down at the Vets Hall where we had a specific item brought out for the parents to be educated on, and we're looking at a couple other items like that. So that's the only committee I had.
Councilmember Clower?
I didn't have any meetings.
I did attend the CalCog meeting. We were talking, the discussion mainly focused on road state funding. There's a lot of bills making their way through. And right after our meeting the next day, the governor announced his proposal to help fund some of those projects. Probably not the best, but it's better than what we have at this point. So there is progress being made at the state level, which is going to give us a few more dollars if everything does go through. We'll move to item G62, informational reports from City Council. Councilmember Luna.
I attended the Cesar Chavez Student March on Sunday the 26th, and it was nice to see students come out and participate. And I usually don't do this, but I especially want to thank Colin from the Freelance for actually coming out and walking the walk with the students, interviewing them, and wanting to know more about the history of Cesar Chavez here in this community, which is a very rich history, being that Cesar's second office was really in Hollister on East Street. So, and then I attended the Friday, on Friday, March 30th in San Jose. I was one of the guests of the Chavez family in the celebration breakfast that they had. So, and I do want to mention something, Mayor Velasquez, is that I am real concerned about on the weekends. I see humongous signs of garage sales. And the other day, I stopped at a stop sign, and I think the garage sale sign was bigger than the stop sign. And I was very disturbed by that. I did take a picture with my phone of the address and where the garage sale is being held. But I'm just wondering, is there anything that we can put out? I mean, it was at a stop sign, the sign. And I'm just very concerned about that. I'm just hoping that people would, be more courteous to everyone by not posting all those signs all over the actual signs that belong to the city and the state. So I wanted to bring that up. Also, I see some of the cleanup is beginning to happen on the west side. On the entrance where there's so many area, and so I'm hoping that they will continue to do that. And again, to the city manager, if you could just give us an update on the Marriott. I noticed that they painted it now, so I'm just wondering what's next.
I can give you an update on that. The general manager called me the other day. Their opening date, their target date is June 1st.
Okay.
They're very excited. Right now, their rooms actually have the furniture inside, and they're doing all the finishing touches on the lower floors. So they're aggressively trying to be opening date of June 1st.
So now we can go on the tour?
Yes, I asked, and he's going to be inviting us out on a tour very soon.
I'd like to do that. Thank you. That's my report.
Councilmember Friend?
Just one thing. I just want to remind everybody that on April 21st, 22nd, 23rd, at the Veterans Hall, we will be having a state convention of American Legion Riders, about 200 attendees, so parking downtown might get noisy.
Okay.
We're actually going to close 7th Street between East and Sally Vista, park the bike. So just want to recommend keep the children locked up.
Councilmember Clower.
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate the recommendation that we assign somebody as a liaison to the county, and hopefully they'll do the same for us. I think it's a pretty simple idea that we should have somebody who knows it's their job to know what's going on with the county. And it seems like probably once a meeting, they're doing something that we should know about, or we're doing something that they should know about, or there should be some sort of collaboration or cooperation that happens with the agendas. I know everybody's really busy, but I think we have capable enough staff to actually make this a lot smoother running operation in regards to the umpteen contracts we have with them. Also wanted to give a shout out and a thank you to Code Enforcement for coming out. Code Enforcement and the Fire Department for coming out to Association of Realtors meeting last Thursday. They did a great job of letting us know how to spot people kind of breaking the law as we go through houses, unsafe situations, and even where and how we can put our signs when we're doing open houses and things like that. So it was a really good presentation. Then another thing that I think everybody should be aware of, next meeting we're going to have the interviews for the District 4 seat. So that's kind of a big deal. Hopefully we'll have a decent turnout. So this is the first time I've gone through the process. I think there should be some people who are interested in how that's going to work. So that'll be good. And then just happy Easter to everybody.
Thank you. Just want to let everyone know I did attend a tour of the high school on Saturday. The idea was to let the public know what's going on, what's really going on at the high school, and all the great programs and facilities they are building out there. And it's very impressive, and I think if you have a chance, they're going to set up another tour in May. I highly recommend the public to take the tour to get a good understanding of what's happening out there. I was one of those that was concerned about the need to build another high school, but the plan they have right now makes a lot of sense, and I really encourage the public to get out there and take a look at that. Also wanted to set a time, if you have, City Manager, to discuss an MOU with the high school on use of their tennis courts so the public can use it. They have the lights out there, 4 courts that are lighted, and use of it through the evenings, weekends, or when there is not school in session. We can come up to some agreement. There's the new courts, there's 4 of them that are lighted. Really good facilities. Also wanted to bring back the group for the floating islands to do a presentation and maybe more of a study session so we have a better understanding. Ray understands it very well. He was in the early conversations. It's probably too late for this year to do anything with the industrial ponds, but we really need to look at alternative ways to handle this because we're going to keep running into the same situation. I really would like them to come back. They have some good concepts that treat the water, and even to the point of where it can eventually be a fishing pond too. That's how well their method would work, and I think it would be helpful for all the council members to really understand what they can accomplish through natural sources rather than the way we've been doing it. So that would be helpful to spend some good time on it so we get more background information on it. If we can set that up with one of the other study sessions. Okay, City Manager?
Yes, and I will give just a brief Marriott report as well. Over the last few weeks, staff has been meeting with the folks during the construction of the Marriott on Wednesdays at about 10:30. So if you want to join us for that, you're more than welcome to come and do that. I think I'm never going to say a date of an opening date. I'm glad the mayor said June 1st because I would have thought it would have been out a little bit further, but that's fine.
Let me repeat their goal.
Okay. We did receive the grand jury's report. I'll be coming back to you within the next, I think we have 60 days to prepare a response for that. Our only little write-up was on the CalCard, which I think received rave reviews. They just want to make sure that we're keeping appropriate receipts. And I did meet with Ray Espinoza today. We had lunch. I have a couple of people picked out to be a liaison, both with special skills, individual skills that I think that'll be helpful for making sure that we coordinate our efforts and make sure that at least we know what others are doing. And then, like the mayor also said, I got kind of a pre-tour of the high school last week, and it is pretty impressive with the stuff that they are doing out there. So that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. City Attorney?
Nothing.
Chief?
Nothing to report.
City Clerk?
I just want you all to bear in mind that depending on the number of candidates we get, we may have to begin the interviews a bit earlier than the 4 p.m. we're planning now, but I'll let you know as soon as after Friday as I can.
Great. Thank you very much. H-I-J and K,
Move
no
for
business.
adjournment.
There's a motion for adjournment. Is there a second? Second. Motion second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for being out tonight.